Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Take a look at the screen. Our parsha this Shabbat for the whole week is Mishpatim. Now, we're not going to talk about it today, but I encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to keep up with your readings of the Parshiot week by week, the Haftarah and the Shlikim. So we're going to move on from that now to what we're talking about today. And it's a continuation of our study by Kevin Jeffrey, Messianic Life. And today we are speaking about session 4, which is entitled Sanctification. And as you know, we will have oneg, and then after the oneg, we'll come together in the Beit Midrash room and discuss this session all about sanctification. So, sanctification is something that we've all heard about, but you may have not ever heard about this particular use of the word, but there's apparently a non-religious meaning of sanctification. And it's defined as the state of proper functioning, that is, or to set it apart for the use for which it was intended by the designer. An example that is given is that a writing pen is sanctified when it is used to write. That makes sense, doesn't it? It is used for the purpose for which it was intended. A pair of glasses is sanctified when they are used to improve vision. And then the one that we know more about is the theological approach. In this sense, it also applies to inanimate objects. They are sanctified when they are used for the purpose for which Adonai intends. And one thing that we could think about is that a vessel that was made for use in the tabernacle was sanctified when it was used by the priest for the manner in which it was intended. So it was made holy. It was set apart by its proper use. And in the same way, and speaking spiritually, a person is sanctified when he or she lives according to God's design and purpose. That's an important statement. A person is sanctified when they live according to God's design and purpose. And I know that this is something that each of us, as followers of Messiah Yeshua, wish to do. When we live according to the way that Adonai designed us, we are holy and set apart for His purpose. We are then obedient to His will, doing and being that which He commanded us to do and to be. And not just to be in what we call His permissive will. We may talk about His permissive will, but in reality, in His permissive will, we are living on the fringes of sanctification, on the fringes of it. But we want to live in His perfect will for us, and that way we will be sanctified even more fully. So we know He has shown us through His Torah, through His teaching and His instruction, which He revealed from Genesis to Revelation, how to do this. And Adonai has not left us to our own devices. We don't have to do it by ourselves. He has sent Yeshua to be our moreh, to be our teacher. Well, if you stop and think about sanctification, we find that there are levels of sanctification. Right now, each of us in this room is sanctified to a degree. And that is because each of us has trusted Yeshua. We have passed the level of justification. The first step is justification, when we receive the promise of salvation. And we are now in the ongoing process of sanctification. We're all on a journey which will lead us to levels of greater and greater sanctification. The examples we used a few minutes ago, a pen or a pair of glasses, can reach an immediate state of sanctification when you use them for the purpose they were intended. Once it's used to write, a pen is in a perfect state of sanctification. But our perfect state of sanctification is in the future, and it requires our conscious effort now, to reach it. And as we grow in obedience to Adonai, we reach higher and higher levels of sanctification. We're not competing with each other. We are doing the best that we can for our Messiah. So to be successful in this journey, we have to make conscious decisions to turn away from the things which separate us from Him. Now, you know that this is pretty much apparent. Everything I said up to that point came from me. But everything else comes from Kevin. So I'm kind of paraphrasing what Kevin is saying about this particular session. And as you read it, you would see that he described many of the things that are going on in the world which can separate us from Adonai. And he suggests that, quote, sanctification is not just not participating in sin, but is actually separating ourselves from the things of the world and refusing to conform to the world's ways, end quote. So the ways of the world are insidious, sneaky. They creep up on us, on every one of us, even those who know Yeshua and want to serve Him. And over a period of time, we become desensitized to certain forms of sin. To conquer this condition, we have to make a conscious decision to practice holiness. Holiness and worldliness. We have two things here. They're different states of being, and they're in opposition. You can't have both. You have to have one or the other. Our goal is holiness. To begin to achieve it, we must look for and we must identify any ways in which we may have allowed worldliness to creep into our lives. We have to distinguish between holiness and worldliness and seek to remove the ways that the world says are okay, but which Adonai says are not okay. Yeshua said to his disciples, I have given them your word, and the world hated them, because they are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. I'm not asking that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one. They are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. Make them holy in the truth. Your word is truth. Just as you sent me into the world, so I have sent them into the world. And for their sakes, I make myself holy, so that they also may be made holy in truth. I pray not on behalf of these only, but also for those who believe in me through their message. So Yeshua said, I'm not asking that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one. As we said a moment ago, he gave us justification. He gave us his atonement, but he did not remove us from the world. And we have to deal with the world. Just as Yeshua was sent to the world, he has sent us to the world. And although we are in the world, we are not to be of the world. He plainly said in verse 14, which we just read, they are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. And just as Yeshua proclaimed that word for his 12 disciples, as he said, it's also for us. We're not of the world. We are of the Messiah. But even so, even though we are of the Messiah, sometimes we let the world come in. But Yeshua prayed for us to the Father that we would be kept out of evil. But what we find is that there are sometimes external stimuli which, if we allow them, they can undermine the work which he's already done in us. One is evil. Evil comes sometimes masquerading as an angel of light. And when we allow ourselves to enter into evil thoughts or evil circumstances, we are at the mercy of our flesh. Yeshua wants us to be kept out of evil so that evil will be kept out of us. And as we look around us in today's world, it is impossible to not see the evil which has become so commonplace. But even though it's all around us, we are not to shut ourselves away from it. We are to be in the world, but we are to overcome the ways of the world. And in doing so, to be a light to the world. As we continue to speak about sanctification, we see that Adonai gave Israel a very practical way to remember him. And at the same time, he gave Israel a way not to forget her identity. When we speak of Israel, we are Israel, Jews and Gentiles together in Messiah. What is the way that he gave to Israel? It is the Shabbat. And through regularly keeping it, Israel practices her sanctification. And Israel remembers who it is that sanctifies her. Speak now to Bnei Yisrael, saying, surely you must keep my Shabbatot. That's plural for Sabbaths. For it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, so you may know that I am Adonai who sanctifies you. Therefore you are to keep the Shabbat, because it is holy for you. In the phrase holy for you, holy is the Hebrew word kodesh. It is the noun form of a root which means to be set apart, to be separated. We also see other forms of this root. The verb form is kadosh. The adjective is kadosh. But in our particular reading, which we just read, it's kodesh, holy. When we declare that Adonai is holy, we mean that he is set apart from everyone and everything, and he is exalted above everything else. There is none like him. But the same is to be true of God's people in regard to worldly affairs. We are to be set apart to him. He said, "You are to be holy to me, for I, Adonai, am holy, and have set you apart from the peoples, so that you would be mine." Just as Rabbi Herb was speaking a few minutes ago about the system that Adonai ordained for slaves, they called them slaves or indentured servants. The system that he ordained was so much better than what the outside world was doing. We see the same thing in this verse that we just read. The peoples that are referred to in this world, in this verse, are the world. And in that day we had all kinds of idolatry, people worshiping multiple gods, killing their children, doing other things. That was what was going on around outside of Israel. So what he is saying here, he has set us apart from that. And in this day and time, those same things are happening. We have been set apart. We are within his kingdom, the kingdom of Israel. So the truth is, when we as Israel keep the Shabbat, it reminds us first and foremost of the holiness of Adonai. And this also teaches of our own holiness. Sometimes we are reluctant to say that we're holy, because holy has taken on another meaning, that's kind of, people say, "Oh, goody two-shoes, you're holy." We read just a moment ago in Exodus 31:13 that Adonai said that the Sabbath is a sign. He said it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations. And when he set the day of Shabbat apart from the first 6 days of the week, Adonai used this means to show Israel the holy relationship that there was between him and his people. The next thing I'm going to say will be Kevin's own words. I'm quoting him. I thought it was important because of the way he put it to just quote him entirely. Catch the importance of this. For one entire day in every 7, 1/7 of Israel's days on earth, she was given the opportunity to practice her sanctification. She would not work, but rest and be refreshed. Yet that is not all that there is to the Shabbat. By behaving differently on the Shabbat rather than the other days of the week, the Shabbat is sanctified, set apart from the first 6 days. And it is only in the resting, in the stillness apart from a laborious week, that Israel can clearly see the sign and know that it is Adonai who sanctifies her all the days of her life. While the world around us is dizzy with activity, the Shabbat is set apart as holy, and the ones who keep it holy are themselves sanctified. End quote. So what we see is that by practicing Shabbat, we practice sanctification. And the spiritual lessons of the Shabbat can be applied to our daily walk with Messiah Yeshua. This can be applied in the same way that the Shabbat physically separates us from the world. And this allows us to respond defensively in our spirits to the world around us. This is something we have to develop, that we have to do. When we see something in the world around us that is in opposition to God's Word, our spirits must respond defensively. And then because we have a heightened awareness of the profane and the impure world around us, we can more readily resist the creeping sin and the humanism which is seen so much in the world. And by having this spiritual response to the things of the world, we can then make a physical response and remove ourselves from a situation which is in opposition to Adonai's Word. Though we are in the world, we are not to emulate its values and standards, but to remember that sin is in the world and that sin is insidious. It creeps up on you. That we serve a holy, sanctified, set-apart God whose ways are not our ways must be foremost in our minds. That He is our standard, that He is the originator of our values, and that He is the one whom we are to adore and to emulate must be the goal of our spiritual walk. So we can say this: holiness or sanctification is not a matter of being pious. And it's not a state of mind. It is an active characteristic of a disciple of Messiah Yeshua. I encourage you, Kevin encourages you, we are all encouraged to prepare ourselves today and to begin to actually practice the ways of holiness. And as each of us does this, we will become more astute in detecting and recognizing evil, and will have the increased ability to turn from it. We are left with these words from Shimon Kifah. So brace your minds for action. Keep your balance and set your hope completely on the grace that will be brought to you at the revelation of Yeshua the Messiah. Like obedient children, do not be shaped by the cravings you had formerly in your ignorance. Instead, just like the Holy One who called you, be holy yourselves also in everything you do. For it is written, Kedoshim you shall be, for I am Kadosh. So what we see here in that last sentence, that Shimon Kifah restates what Adonai said in Leviticus, actually in three places, in chapters 11, chapter 19, chapter 20. He said in those chapters of Leviticus to Israel, you shall be holy because I am holy. And that's our goal. A goal which it is attainable by each and every one of us. Adonai would not require us to do something which we could not do. So we don't have to say we can't do it. We can do it. The choice is placed in our hands. The question is, will we do it? Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.